Okay, people. So today I am joined by Nick Norman-Butler, who is the writer and director of My House, which is his feature directorial debut. Nick, thank you very much for letting me view your film and for giving me your time, man. Really appreciate that. How are you doing today?
Yeah, you're welcome. I'm doing fine, thank you.
Splendid, splendid. So looking at your your portfolio, you've done you've worked a lot in TV shows, for uh, films for TV, that kind of thing, documentaries. So what made this feel like it's the time to do a feature film?
Hmm. I guess it was a lot of things really. First, the story of My House is it's based on a true story that somebody told me a long time ago. Somebody I met in a bar, as it happened, and it was inspired by their own personal story. But it's what you see in the film now has changed, very much since then. But the reason why I mentioned that is just because the story stayed with me a long time. I first got the idea when I heard that story. It was long time ago, like more than 15 years ago. So um, so I always was carrying that around with me, and literally as well, because working on the script, I did many drafts over more than a decade, really, and but it was the first script I ever wrote, so certainly those early drafts were no good at all. I was learning the craft as I was writing and figuring out how to do this, and I'd do a draft, put it away for a year, come back to it, on and off. Do that sort of went on for about 10 years. But then then COVID happened, and COVID, was awful for so many people. But there was one silver lining, which a couple of things came out of it, which allowed this film to happen. And for example, I got a bit of money from a bounce back loan from the government, which I was able to put towards getting the film off the ground. The location of My House, it's a one location film. It's a contained thriller within this one house. And that house, which is a great location, had been scheduled for a big renovation job, but they couldn't do it because of COVID. So the owner of it put the house on a film location database instead. I guess he thought, well, maybe I can earn some money, another way, seeing things I'm not renovating my house. And so we were able to get it. And also, I think, film crews were struggling during COVID, and I think we were, then we came along, one of the few productions who were ready to go at that point, with a film that could be made in COVID, because it was manageable, and so we were able to get good crew and a very good cast as well, who perhaps we might not otherwise have got.
Yeah. No, I think that's one thing that you do here, that COVID did give people certain opportunities sometimes, and that's great, But I think it's definitely a testament to being ready,
Yeah,
right? Because I think opportunities come up, but sometimes people aren't ready to seize those opportunities, right?
yeah.
So it's about priming yourself so you're ready for when things come up, and that's what you did. So, hey, that's great, man. I'm glad that worked out for you. But so going back to the script, right? So this is the first script that you've written. How did you kind of work out like the nuances of putting that together? Did you find kind of mentors in the industry to talk to? Did you find, scripts online to look at? Like, what was that journey like for you?
Um, it was very much trial and error, but I suppose, the first couple of drafts were, it was like it was set in America, and it was like this grand epic, very big budget, what would have been a very big budget film.
Mm.
Had it was set over two different eras with it had like some hurricanes in it,
Right.
a hurricane in each era, and so we've got two sort of parallel timelines in America, both, and in each of them a sort of hurricane comes and sort of turns everything upside down, and I just realized, this was just completely unrealistic, really, I suppose. So that was, learning how to write, but then also learning, like, well, let's just be realistic. I'm going to be a first-time director if I ever get this made. No one's going to sort of give me the money to make something this grand. That's
Yeah.
So I just distilled it down to eventually, what is this contained thriller, and embraced the sort of creative possibilities of what can you do in one location. And so that, but that took many drafts to figure out. That was the most significant change. But along the way, I got feedback from, just professional script readers, friends and family, sort of anyone who'd have a read and tell me what they thought, really.
Mm. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. But I think always when you're creating anything, right, you look at it and you always see the flaws. You always feel, I could do better. Right. So when did you what was the thing that made you feel, okay, I think this is the script we can move forward with?
Well, reducing it down in size to one location was late in the day. Like I think there were probably let's say over 15 drafts of this script in total.
Okay.
And
reducing
it down to the one location was probably on like draft 13 or 14. It was this grand American epic all the way till like, I'm gonna say like draft 14, because I don't. So so that was really what made it a viable project for a producer. I knew, that was a big brainwave. Looking back, it sort of feels obvious that it had to be reduced in size like this. But I knew as soon as I realized that this story could work in a contained environment, and once that draft got written, I knew it was something that would be attractive to producers, and could be done in between COVID lockdowns.
Yeah. I think it's a tricky thing, right? Because people always say, when you get an opportunity, take your biggest swing, right? So you might be thinking, okay, if this is my only film, let's do this with it. Let's go big. Let's make it. But then on the flip, you have to think about budget and other kind of constraints. So yeah, I imagine that kind of process was kind of a tricky thing to maneuver through.
Well, you just got to be realistic. I mean, you can still go big and give it everything you've got, but on a film of a smaller scale, it doesn't mean that you sacrifice the storytelling or the creativity. In fact, you can be more creative in a one location film than you might otherwise be on something where you have limitless possibilities of locations and budget. And when I say this is a one location film, it's still in quite a big house. So
yeah,
there's it's not like they're all in one room for 90 minutes. Though I have seen films like that, and like the film Room, and they can be very good. But so I'd like to think we still had a big swing at it, but just I feel like, yeah, this, like I say, this is my first film. I knew I had to, if I was going to make it happen, it had to be something that was in the realm of the possible, not just a dream. Frankly, something that producers would back me on, because there's also that danger that maybe you write a good script and you want to make your first film, and people say, well, it's a great script, but you're not going to direct it.
Yes.
So you've got to try and write something that you can hang on to.
Yeah, no, definitely. And yes, no, I think the film definitely takes those swings. I think it's a bold story. It's interesting. It does some different things there, which I was like, yeah, very impressed by. Like, did the location, the idea to pare it down to that one location, come before the ideas of the video, or was that the thing that made the one location?
It came at the same time, really. Yeah. So for people who haven't seen it yet, it's a found footage style movie, and the lead character Carla finds a camcorder in at the very beginning of the movie, and then proceeds to film her life and goes on this journey to sort of solve some mysteries that relate to her life in the movie. Yeah, no, it was but the idea to make it found footage came at the same time as the idea to make it in one location.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. It was a real sort of let's get real moment. Let's just let's take this massive movie script and get real and just go from something this big in ambition. No, not ambition is the wrong word, but this big in budget.
Yes.
To something that can still be a great story, but which is this big in budget. Yeah, and making it a found footage style movie was part of that thinking, because that saves money too, and time, because each scene only has, because there's only one camera, that's the camcorder that the characters are using. You don't shoot it with your normal wides and mid shots and tight shots. So every scene is a one-er, and it has to be a perfect take, to get the scene in the bag. And we had great actors who were capable of doing that one-er on the first take. But as soon as you get it, you move on. You don't, and that makes it very quick. So it's which in turn makes it cheaper, because as we all know, time's money. So we moved very, very fast, and we shot the whole movie in 10 days from start to finish.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Like, had you seen any other films, right, that gave you ideas for shots or tone, anything like that? Was there anything that inspired you in the manner in which you used to kind of create this?
Yeah. Let me think. There've been some sort of famous found footage movies over the years. Blair Witch Project was sort of the first, and and maybe the best. And then there are also Cloverfield. Some of the Cloverfield films were also done that way. It wasn't a movie, but there was a thing which was sort of very inspiring for me, where the Anne Frank story of the girl who hid from the Nazis in Amsterdam, and I think the Anne Frank Museum did a video project which I saw online, where they sort of imagined that Anne Frank, instead of just having a notebook, had a camcorder with her, and they made it's not feature length, but they made, I think, a sort of web series or something a retelling of the story, but she has a camcorder, and I saw that, and that was inspiring as well, because it's a character of a similar age as Carla in my movie, filming her life, and obviously and Frank is a contained thriller. So seeing that made me really feel like we could get this done, something in the same vein. Other than that, I think those were sort of the main sort of sources of inspiration. But visually, we were also sort of very conscious of the fact that our character, who's filming herself, is not a professional filmmaker. So we're always trying to kind of film it ugly, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
With unorthodox framing, and sort of kind of imagining that she was just leaving the camera around, but it was still filming, and it would sort of capture odd moments sort of accidentally as well. So it was very much, how can we make this appear as if it's been shot by an amateur filmmaker?
Yeah, no, the angles definitely helped give that kind of perception that, oh, this camera is like down on a table, and we're getting up here, or what I mean. I thought that worked very well.
Yeah.
Like, did you with the t-shirt situation, did you actually do it to kind of see how it would look if that was actually kind of done?
Yeah, we did it for real, and it worked pretty good.
Okay.
I thought, yeah.
Nice. Yeah, that I was very, when that was all happening, I was thinking, how is she gonna do that?
Yeah.
How is she gonna? And I was like, oh, okay, interesting.
Right. Yeah. So again, for those who haven't seen it, so she, at one point in the film, Carla, she switches camera from her like handheld camcorder to a secret camera, which she straps to her chest and cuts a little hole in her t-shirt so that she can film secretly through her shirt. And it's an iPhone, so she has the iPhone under her shirt with a lens filming out. And that worked pretty well, I thought. I think it's, as you say, I worked in documentaries, and many years ago I worked on a lot of in sort of some shows that were investigative journalism, and quite a lot of the time back then we were filming with hidden cameras. So that was where my sort of career, if you like, started, doing those kind of shows. So I guess I've carried some of that with me.
Okay. Yeah, I was curious, like, how the TV work helped influence choices and the way this feature came about. So do you think that was one of the biggest kind of things taken from that time? Anything else in prep or anything like that?
How does the TV work? Well, it's very different. The differences are more sort of apparent to me, the differences between TV work and making this movie. But as far as similarities go, I think anyone who comes from documentaries and goes into making a feature or in scripted work brings with them a certain skill set. And I think, what we have is a sense of naturalism, because we've spent our whole careers filming non-actors and looking at them up close. So I remember a cameraman I used to work with in documentaries. He spent his whole life looking at people's faces, and he was a really good lie detector, because he just knew all those micro sort of movements in the face, and he could tell if someone was lying just because he sort of studied the human face for so long. But I'm not sure if I ever acquired that skill, but I did sort of, we spend our lives in documentaries looking at real people. So we know what's real and what isn't, what feels real and what isn't. I think that's very useful when you change and you're suddenly trying to direct actors and helping them get a natural performance. We're also very fast. Documentaries move at light speed because you move as fast as the story is going, and when that's you can't slow it down. So we're literally they call it run and gun for a reason, and when it came to shooting this movie on set, I think I was just used to everything going very fast, and
Right.
I had to kind of force myself to slow down. Let's do another take if we need to. Let's get that set looking perfect before we roll cameras. There's no need to hurry things. So I think those are the main things that I brought with me from documentaries.
Right. Did you storyboard this or
No.
okay? What techniques do you kind of utilize?
With this movie, I just don't think there was a need to storyboard it really, because as I say, each scene is one camera setup. There's no coverage in the traditional sense. So I'd been into so that just makes it much simpler. You only have to really make one decision before the scene starts. So with the DOP, my DOP Suki Mock, I would walk into the room where the scene takes place before we were going to start it, and discuss the camera movement and the camera framing. But that was really just sort of that's it. That's one conversation about one camera placement, and there wasn't really a need to storyboard it because we had access to the location before, and we felt we could just decide it on the day before each scene, and we did.
Okay. Nice.
Plus also because we're in one location, there's no sort of complicated transitions from one place to another, where you might want to storyboard complicated scenes of sort of, characters aren't moving from A to B, small cast. It wasn't, huge choreography going on. And like I say, we were trying to film it in an amateur style. So, so a lot of the design that you would be, the process of doing storyboarding and designing the shots might have actually ruined our approach to in creating an amateur look. We didn't want to overthink it. We just kind of wanted to decide there and then, kind of spontaneously, okay, what would the character do with the camera? And it didn't matter if we got it wrong or it didn't look good, because that's what we were going for.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Like, we had some great performances here. So how, like, all right, let's start here. How was the casting? How did you get this cast together?
Yeah, well, we just went through the regular, casting process, putting out the opportunity to actors, and very orthodox in that sense. And Mirren Mack, who plays Carla, was by far and away, did the best audition. She sent in a tape, and I was just blown away. And I was thinking, like, oh, as soon as I saw it, I was like, please, I hope we can get her. And we were able to, so I was delighted about that. And same with the other actors as well. Frances McGee, I had seen in White Lines, which is on Netflix. It's a very good series about a DJ who goes missing in Ibiza, and I think Francis plays his dad, who comes out to help try and find him. And I thought he was great in that. I thought, so we're very happy to get him. Michelle Collins, of course, known to people of certainly my age from her work in EastEnders, but and many other things too. I thought she was perfect for us, and Aki as well, who's at the start of a very good career. Which he's already proven. He's in Silent Witness now as one of the sort of leads there. Akiyama Shabi. So so those were our four main characters, and I was very happy with all of them.
Okay. Now, when writing a script, did you have a vision of what these characters look like, or was it more, let's go through these auditions and see who reads these lines and brings them to life?
I never had a preconceived idea of what what the actors needed to look like. I had a bit of an idea about what they. The only real guidance I had on that was I had an idea of the person who told me the story in the beginning. But as I say, the script went through so many sort of revisions. By the time, what you see now in the film is like probably unrecognizable to, the original story I was told. So no, I mean, I don't think you can have any fixed notions of what the characters should look like, particularly when you go through the casting process, because you need to be open to the auditions and the process and what each actor offers up when reading for the role, and who they are and what they look like.
Okay. And working with them on set to bring these performances to life, like, how did you find that process? Like, did you speak to other people on how they worked that way, or was it kind of intuitive to you?
I wouldn't say it's intuitive. I think we talked about crossing over from documentaries earlier, and I was saying some of the advantages that gives a director, but I think the hardest thing for me has been learning how to work with actors. And I think a lot of directors are a bit scared of actors. They don't know how to talk to them. There's all this sort of bit of a mystery about what they do, and I did try my best to learn that, learn some skills, as many as I could before shooting this movie. I went on an acting course myself.
Okay.
And several, in fact. I did a regular acting course, a method acting course, and I still go on do courses, when I can, to practice working with actors, even after shooting the movie. So I think that helped a lot, to be able to, because there is such a thing as, bad direction to an actor, and there's a big difference between bad direction and good direction, and knowing that is something I'd recommend to all directors.
Oh, that's a really great bit of advice, Nick. I think, because I always feel that, in different things, it's to tell people what to do, right? To motivate people, you need to kind of have an idea of the work. There's like, you could be like, I feel you can do this so much faster, but how do you know? You've not done it, right? So I think that is really, I think that's an impressive, humble kind of thing to do. I honestly haven't come across this. I've spoken to plenty of directors who have come from an acting background, so they bring that, they understand that kind of, way of dealing with things. But a straight director, I don't think I've heard them say that before. That's interesting.
What, that to take an acting course?
Yeah.
It was super useful. and just also to understand like how exposing it is to get up there on your own and perform, and you've got to be brave to do that, no matter sort of what level you're at. So I felt like I understood that, and yeah, I think it's something you can always improve. I certainly haven't mastered it, but I was very happy with the performances of my actors. And then, as luck would have it, I did as much preparation as I could, but actually, when it came down to shooting this movie, I didn't really need to direct the actors at all because they were so good, they just got it. And like I said, we rarely did a second take. We might have done one for sort of safety, or if we wanted to change a little technical thing, but hardly ever for the actors.
Now, I'm just curious, how did you find the acting classes, and did you have a preference between the straight acting or the method?
So I did the method acting because I just was curious, like, what is this all about? I don't think I had a preference on it. I think, it's not something I wish to pursue, so I'm not so, meaning I don't want to be an actor. And actors, they all have their own method. They do what works for them. But I found it very fun. It's it's a process of discovery. When you first get a script, and you just as if as a director, if you first read someone else's script, and you read it and reread it, and you like you're peeling layers off an onion and getting every time you get a greater understanding of it, and until you sort of finally are able to identify sort of what's at the core of the scene, and that's, I find that very interesting from a sort of research analytical point of view, but then also trying to tap into what is the sort of core emotional sort of event of the scene, and the motivations of the actors is also just from a sort of human behavior point of view, very interesting to try and of course it's playful as well. It should be fun. These are all things that we don't often have time for in our daily lives. So to be able to explore these sort of areas of psychology and playfulness, I think is a good use of time.
Yeah, no, for sure. Now, as you said, like the cast were great, so they kind of brought these performances out. But with Mirren, like, because it's the found footage element of it, so there's that movement with the camera as well. So was there things you had to work out with her for people to believe that we're getting this type of footage, or did she have
so,
understanding too?
Well, Mirren was very up for using the camera because she had done a photography course a while back. So she was interested in how a camera works from the get-go. But she also, but again, she understood that her character was someone who didn't know how to use a camcorder, but enjoyed the opportunity to film her life. And so she came at it from a character point of view. She was up for it for that reason, and she did a very good job. We did use a kind of camera which had a remote follow focus, so we could control some of it ourselves. Saying that we didn't. I didn't want it to always be in focus, going back to the amateur style we were looking for, but we tried to not give Mirren too much complicated camera moves to do. We just wanted it to be natural, and she did that perfectly.
Yeah, it's an interesting role because it's this kind of full journey, right? Of this naivety to, suddenly getting these breadcrumbs of knowledge and the way that that kind of transforms her over this period of time is very interesting. And I think, she really did do a fantastic job of bringing that to life and making it believable. Because I think that's the big thing. It's having to have the viewer, kind of buy what you're cooking, as it were. And I think you definitely, do.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's good job by Mirren and the other actors. I completely agree. I think her performance needed to be that good to sell it, and it was. So I'm very grateful.
And I think you played a part in that as well, man. You know what I mean?
Team effort, yeah.
When coming into this, what at the time did you feel was going to be the biggest challenge? And then, once done, like what actually turned out to be the biggest challenge, if it was different?
Coming into it, what did I think would be the biggest challenge? I think, it's. I was pretty confident coming into it. I felt ready. I think all I was really. This is something that was only really relevant back then, but the biggest challenge I felt was just like, and it's not a very exciting answer, not really to do with filmmaking craft, but I was just terrified that someone was going to get COVID, because if someone got COVID, there was a risk that everybody would catch it off them, and then we'd have to shut the whole film down, and we'd be dead in the water. That was the biggest worry. Other than that, we were ready. So I had a great team, and I felt like secure, and that they had my back. So I wasn't really, and we had enough time and everything. So I wasn't stressed about that. And then what you asked me, what was it something different? I think the biggest challenge, really, looking back at the whole process, was just how long everything took. Like I said, it came from documentaries. Normally, when you make a documentary, you're filming and then it's on TV within a couple of months maximum.
Oh, that is that quick?
Yeah. And
I didn't realize it was that quick. I knew it was quicker, but I didn't know it was that quick.
Yeah, well, for TV anyway, for sure, because it's been commissioned first, then you go film it, and they've given, pretty much they give you what day it's going to be on TV, pretty soon after they commission it. So then you're working to that deadline, especially in current affairs, which I did a fair bit of, because you've got to, it's a topical story. It needs So it might even be as short as, I've made documentaries where you start filming and, it's got to be on TV and finished and on TV in under 2 months. And that's the filming and the edit. Everything has to be wrapped up by then, and that is fast. And, you're often filming and editing at the same time, with up to like 4 edit suites running simultaneously. So that's takes a big operation with everybody moving at great speed. So coming out of that, to, like I say, I had to force myself to slow down, and it was the same after we'd finished filming. I mean, we filmed it in 10 days. but that was in December 2020. So I think, the biggest problem for me was I just had to learn to be patient, because, we're talking now in 2023. It's nearly been 3 years since we filmed this movie, 2.5 years.
Mm.
And I had no idea that it would take that long. I thought the movie would be out in 2021. And that was a bit of a shock to me, but, I've since come to realize that that's actually pretty normal. And I know friends, I know of films which filmed before mine and have still not been released. So, I do actually feel grateful that, we got it out when we did. But that was my big learning curve.
Right. Yeah, no, I can definitely see that, because that is a huge contrast. It's like being a sprinter and then being like, actually, I'm gonna do marathons now.
Exactly.
Oh man. Yeah, it's funny. I spoke to a guy a few months back. Oh gosh, I think it was Matthias Halls. He had a film called Little Bone Lodge, which is a really good thriller, kind of, but it kind of has a similar theme to yours. But yeah, different kind of setting and that kind of thing. But he shot over lockdown, and like you, he was just like, man, if anyone got COVID, we were screwed. You know what I mean? So it was just like this, just a concern going through, just that worry of, that kind of thing. But yeah.
Yeah, it's just a sign of the times now. Luckily, we don't have to worry about that anymore. But at the time, I'm sure everyone will remember it was a really big deal. So,
yes. And with the edit of the film, like, how involved with that were you?
Yeah, I'm very involved every step of the way. But again, this was the edit was spread out over probably a year, or maybe a little bit more. We had an assembly done with it very quickly, but then we were just sort of tinkering with it. And with a film at this sort of budget level, the people, your editors and things, they all have day jobs, and they tend to be doing this, kind of in their spare time, or when they've got a spare week. And so, and when you have, I don't know, maybe let's say 5 or 10 people who all, have their own little role to play in post-production, and they all have to find the time working around other projects. That's why it takes so long. So,
yeah, I mean, what is that? How does that feel? Like having to wait on different people to do these different bits, but knowing, like, you can't be like, yo, we need to, because they're kind of doing you this solid, and they're trying to get the time in, so you're being patient, but you're just like, I just want this to be done. Like, how did you find dealing with those emotions?
Well, it was very difficult, because I'm not a patient person, and like in TV documentaries, you want that little tiny bit of the edit fixed. You get it done, and it's 5 minutes later it's done. But but on this project, it was like it took considerably longer, but weeks or months. So it was hard. But what can I say? I learned that I had a new tolerance for patience. But I just had to sort of keep the faith, and the wheels kept on turning. They never stopped. But it's just a different pace to broadcast documentaries, and there'll be people out there who are like, "Duh, we know that," but I didn't know that. So yeah, I had to learn it.
Well, I mean, it's easy to oh gosh, Sunday quarterback. No, Monday. I think it's Monday. Yeah,
Monday,
backseat
yeah.
drive. Let's just say that. Yeah, it's easy to do that, but when you're in it, it's a whole different thing. So
Yeah.
yeah, you know, it's. I think it's always impressive when you're able to, I mean, bring to life that thing that you've been kind of envisioning for so long. So when this finally got done, you got your release date, then it went out into the world. How did that feel?
Very nerve-wracking because up until that point, only maybe like 15 people have seen the film. That's you and your producers and editor and all the people involved in that process. And then suddenly, it's out on, in the UK, it's out on Amazon Prime, and suddenly it's there for the whole world to see. And it's out in America as well, and other places in the world too. So yeah, it's very much like sending your kid off to school for the first day and hoping nobody is mean to him.
Yeah. Did you do any festivals or any, preview screenings or anything like that?
No, we didn't. We decided not to do festivals. We just, it was just a choice we made. We figured that it was preferable to basically put it on, make it available to viewers directly, and see how it goes.
Okay.
The
And
festival is great, but it also takes a lot of time.
yes.
Film can be on the festival circuit before it gets distribution for a year or more, and I think we just decided that let's just get it out there. We had, we were lucky enough to get a distribution deal done, so that was the choice we made.
No, the festival, so like it's always interesting because there's films that I watched at, say, the 2019 London Film Festival that have only just kind of seems to have come out,
Yeah.
right? Only seems to have finally got distribution, and they pop up on like Netflix or Prime or somewhere else, and you're like, oh my god, wait, when did I watch that? That was years ago. Like,
Mm-hmm.
damn. So yeah, it's I think there's so many different ways you can do this thing. I don't think there's one right or wrong way about it. It's just what
Mm-hmm.
works for you at that moment in time.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
And like, how prepared have you been for those different reactions to it? Did you know there's going to be people that love it, and there's going to be people that be like, "Phew, I mean, oh, that doesn't work for me, and that, oh, I don't buy it." You know what I mean? So,
Mm-hmm.
like, how do you deal with that? Because I think there's things that could be valid critiques that you might think, okay, that's a good point. I'll take that on for next time. And then there's just people, who it's anonymous, so you can be shitty just to be shitty, or it just doesn't, not everything works for the same people. So, like, yeah, how have you kind of prepared?
I just decided very quickly, like the film came out, and I probably read like the first two reviews that were put online of it, or from like reviews on Amazon Prime or whatever. One of them was okay. The second one wasn't great, and I just decided there and then I wasn't going to read any more, like at all, ever. So, because it's just too. It's a bad review. Yeah, it can be very hard to read, and taken a long time for this film to come to light. I just decided, like, it's done. It's out there in the world, and I'm not going to read any reviews.
No, I mean, I'm always kind of in two minds about reviews a lot of the time, because I just think sometimes people just it feels like they're mean just to be mean,
Yeah.
right? And I think you always have to understand that just because you don't like something or something doesn't work for you doesn't mean everyone's going to have that same experience, you know. So I always try and, you know, frame it in the extent of, look, this, I love this film, right? Or it doesn't quite work for me, but if you enjoy this and this, I think that it will speak to you. You know, so give people reference points to, you know what I mean, to kind of preface, you know, how it might work for someone. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. I mean, look, everybody has a different taste, and that's fine. And I think this film, there's a lot of good things about it. There might be one or two things that could be improved as well. But overall, I'm very happy with it. And, um, I just figure that that's good enough for me, really. And sort of, if there are people out there saying good things about it, that's great. If there are people saying bad things about it, they're entitled to their opinion. But, I think, yeah, it's just better for a director's sanity to just sort of not get involved in that review process at all.
Yeah, yeah. I think, you know, you have people around you who can give you, you know, fair critique and advice and that kind of thing. But yeah, don't pay attention, because when you think about how many films that came out and did not do well at first, and then, you know, years, months later, they're looked at and be like, oh man, that actually was a really great film,
Mm.
you know. And that's the, like, you know, I was reading just the other day, right, that Pixar film, the new Pixar film Elemental, I believe it is called, like
Yeah.
they're saying it's a flop. Now they're saying actually it's not a flop,
Mm-hmm.
it's made, you know, good money,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's just, I think sometimes there it feels like, right, it's not necessarily an agenda, but everyone will like, one person will say something and then everyone just follows that
Yeah.
one thing
Yeah.
without making their own, you know, opinion up,
Yeah.
which is a shame, but it's just the way it is. So yeah, I just think, yeah, don't don't let the noise in, man. Don't let the noise in.
That's right.
Mm. But no, I really did enjoy it. I thought it was very interesting. There, you know, there's a couple of things. I was curious where she got a phone battery, because god damn, I need I need that phone battery, son. But no, like, you know, overall, this was a great film. And, you know, being your, you know, feature debut, that's like impressive. It's enjoyable to see that, you know, that it works so well for you, you know.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yeah.
Like, have you thought about what's next?
Yeah, very much. Yeah. So I've written another script, which is a TV pilot, which is it's a political satire, um, which I think is which I'm really excited about. I've sort of kept that under wraps. Only just started showing it to people. Script is ready, but I just wanted to hold it back
Mm.
because I wanted this film to come out first, so that I could start sending out any sort of other scripts with the film already out, so people sort of can see that, so I'm not just a guy with scripts, but I'm a guy with a film and scripts.
Yes.
And I'm in the middle of writing another movie, which is a it's a sort of noir. It's about an amateur sleuth who uh, gets involved with trying to solve a murder mystery, but it has a sort of, I want to say, quite a unique take on the whole sort of genre. It's a bit different, and that is quite a few drafts in, and that's getting to a place where it's pretty nearly finished too.
Okay. Oh, that sounds great. Now, just I'm curious about the TV thing. Like, when you know, you're doing that, like, how many scripts do you write or do you write the first episode and an overview of everything? Like, what's that approach like?
So I've only written the pilot for the first episode. I have, somewhere a document where with quite a detailed plan of what I think would happen in subsequent episodes.
Mm.
But I just decided to not write them yet because hopefully I can, the pilot is good enough that one day, the plan is that I get someone to pay me to write the rest of the episode.
Yeah.
So I figured just, hopefully one would be enough to get some attention.
Mm. No. I think that makes a lot of sense,
Mm.
to do it like that. And, you might have ideas to change it. So it's just like, why, you rush it all out when, let it permeate a bit.
Right.
Mm. Like, are there other genres you want to kind of tread your feet in?
Well, yes and no. I mean, I sort of have my favorite genres, and I think I'm, definitely a guy who's interested in the thriller space. Whether that be, I would say My House, this film of mine that's just come out is a psychological thriller or contained thriller. The TV pilot is has some, it's a satire, but it's also a political thriller. And the movie I'm writing at the moment is also sort of in a similar sort of thriller space. It's more of a sort of detective thriller.
Okay.
So yeah, that's my sort of wheelhouse, as it were, to use an American phrase. That's where I'm most comfortable. That's what I enjoy the most. But I think genres, the boundaries get a bit blurred these days as well. I mean, you look at something like Succession as an example, and it's well known that that the writers on that came from comedy, but and of course there's lots of jokes in it, but it's also a thriller and it's a drama. So yeah, there's crossover, isn't there?
Okay. I hear it's great. I have not watched it yet. But the one thing I do know, which definitely kind of piqued my interest, is that the guy that created it had a TV series back in the day called Scrotal Recall or Lovesick. Because it was on Channel 4 as Scrotal Recall. Then Netflix bought it and they changed the name to Lovesick. And it's a great series, So that and completely different, right? It's a guy kind of looking back on past relationships, trying to find the one, and then Succession is, this other thing. So that I was like, oh, interesting. But
Right.
yeah.
And Peep Show would have come in between the two of them, right? Did you ever watch Peep Show?
Oh, Peep Show is fantastic.
Yeah.
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 Really,
In fact,
really
Francis McGee, my actor, was in Peep Show.
right. Because I'm a lot of times I've watched something and I'm like, I know that person from somewhere and I can't quite put my finger on it.
Yeah. Yeah,
Peep.
he played the musician. There's an episode or two. He played the musician, which I forget his character name, but he's the guy who what's that other character? Is he called Slow Hands or something?
Small Hands.
Small Hands.
Yeah.
And he starts to work for
Francis. Yeah. No shit, that is all coming back now.
Yeah.
Oh, outstanding.
Mm-hmm.
And with like detective stuff, what kind of is it? Do you like kind of Michael Chandler? No, Raymond Chandler, even like what kind of vibe is yours, kind of thing?
I do like Raymond Chandler. Yeah, I've been reading a bit of him recently, and James Elroy as well.
Oh, yeah.
The two sort of LA greats. Yeah, but my main character is not a detective in that sense. My character is an amateur sleuth and someone who and an unreliable narrator, someone who gets into trying to help the police for sort of their own personal reasons, but they are not to be trusted as a protagonist.
Ah,
So, so regular detective fiction. Well, I mean, it definitely is inspiring in terms of, Raymond Chandler's, a great at. It's about taking your time. He's very good at describing characters and locations when his detective first steps into those places and setting the scene. He just takes that time to describe the room, the building that his detective steps into, which I've tried to sort of take from. And the other thing which I try to take from that kind of fiction is, that it's all very first person POV. I don't think you can ever really you can hardly ever pick out a scene which does not have the involvement of the protagonist in it. If he's not, he's either watching something happen or he's direct involved in the dialogue. I don't recall ever any scenes where you sort of cut away to another location where he's not present. So I tried to take that from it as well. And in fact, one of the Raymond Chandler movies was filmed as a first-person POV movie, I think. I've yet to see it, but I think it was it Lady in the Lake, possibly? I think was done as a sort of, let me just fact check myself there, if you don't mind.
Oh, no. My memory is so bad, so... Yeah, I do enjoy a good crime noir kind of story. Like, there's a comic book author who's got into a lot of TV, and I think he's written some film scripts, called Edward Brubaker, who is fantastic at crime noir.
Okay, I'm gonna have to look them up. Here we go, Raymond Chandler. Let's see if I can find it. It won't take too long, but
no, yeah, a lot of his stuff has been adapted, which is
it might have been. I don't know. People listening to this can Google themselves, but it might have been The Big Sleep. I can't remember, but there's one of his movies which I've yet to see, which is shot as a first-person point of view, all from sort of the detective's point of view. So anyway, so yeah, definitely, I'm trying to learn from that.
okay.
What was the name of the guy who you were just telling me about?
Oh, Ed Brubaker. Yeah, he has written some, oh my gosh, some fantastic stories. Like he's written some stuff for like the big two. He wrote a great Daredevil run at Marvel, and he did a series at DC called Gotham Central, which was, I think it was more around the police detective Gordon, James Gordon. I think it's kind of around him and the police department and how they solve crimes. And I think, people like Batman kind of make guest appearances now and then, but that it was more the crime side. But then he went, did a lot of independent stuff at Image, where a lot of the crime noir stuff, was out, and that stuff is just really, really good. Yeah, okay. I think if you enjoy that, you'll enjoy his writing for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Well, if you're into that, I got a recommendation for you.
Okay.
For graphic novels. going to have to quickly Google this to make sure I'm saying the right thing.
Because yeah, do you kind of consume all these different kind of story, types, or is there a kind of, a medium that you prefer?
Yeah, it's a graphic novel publisher called AWA. From an American, I think, artists with, I don't know what is this? You're going to have to edit this video and cut out my ums and ahs and just.
It's all fine.
Pull this bit out. AWA.
Okay.
They have great stories. And I think like every single thing they've published in the last year has been snapped up. It's going to be made into a movie.
All right. I will keep an eye out for that publisher for sure.
Yeah. AWA Studios. Okay, here we go. Yeah, which is awastudios.net.
Okay. I will peruse that site for sure.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. No, that's great. And just before I let you go, now you're working on the crime noir, the TV. How have you found your writing has evolved since My House?
Yeah. Well, it's got better. It's just practice. There are, you live and learn, don't you? There's things that, how do I put this? There's things that I thought I was not so good at as a writer, which I'm just trying to improve on. And the more you do it, the better you get. So for sure, I think that the scripts that I'm working on now, will show an evolution from My House, not just in scale or breaking out of the boundaries of a contained thriller, but also just deeper characters, better plot, hopefully just better on all fronts.
Okay. Well, I mean, this is a very solid foundation to build upon. So I look forward to what comes next, man, for sure.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let people know where they can find you. Like, all the information will be on the website, but yeah, how can people keep track of what Nick Norman-Butler is doing?
Well, yeah, so I'm in the usual places. Twitter is at Nick N_B, and Instagram is same thing, Nick N_B, and you can find everything else, my website, through that.
Awesome. Well, people, My House is now out. So make sure you go to the website because the links will be there. Go watch it. And trust me, you will not be disappointed. Nick, this has been a straight pleasure. I hope when your next project is ready, you will come by and we can have another conversation, man.
Sure, I'd love to. Thanks for having me, Kevin.
Splendid, man. All right. Well, you take it easy. Enjoy the accolades because I feel there'll be more people that enjoy it than the people, nattering at the back. So yeah, enjoy it, man, because you have done an outstanding job with this.
Thank you. I'm going to slowly fade into the darkness now because the sun's set, and then I'm going back into the darkness to
Awesome. Thanks, man.